It is the third day since the truce collapsed. Bombing continues in Gaza. Both Israel and Hamas have ruled out negotiations for now, as bodies line up in the Palestinian enclave. Israel says it has pulled back mediators from Qatar, while Hamas says that another exchange of prisoners and hostages will only take place after a permanent ceasefire. As we speak, relentless airstrikes continue to hit Gaza. Flares and explosions lit up the Gaza skyline as fighting stretched to third day after the truce collapsed. Over 240 Palestinians have been killed as per Hamas since then. Rockets have also been fired from Gaza towards Israel. The Israeli officials say that hundreds and thousands were running for cover as sirens sound across central Israel on Saturday. Videos show how people are taking shelter for safety and Israel's Iron Dome defense system intercepting missiles above the city. The Israeli army has meanwhile released a video to show an alleged Hamas tunnel near a school in northern Gaza. The army said that the tunnel was 5 meters deep. They also released videos showing troops carrying out missions to neutralize infrastructure in what was said to be the area surrounding Jabalia in northern Gaza. While these are the scenes unfolding in Gaza, this is the scale of devastation both in southern and northern Gaza. The visuals on your screens right now are of Gaza City in the north and Khan Younis in the south. Both of these cities have come under intense bombings since the fighting resumed on Friday. Families can be seen fleeing their homes as they got struck by Israeli strikes. And this is the Al-Ahli hospital in Gaza City. It has often been targeted by the Israeli forces since the beginning of the war. Dead bodies have been arriving here by truck, car and even horse-drawn cart. And what you see is the devastation in southern Gaza. After 2 months of war, civil order is up for a toss. People have now resorted to loot 8 trucks that have been arriving in the territory. People were seen climbing on top of trucks, transporting humanitarian supplies. As per the reports, only 2 fuel trucks and 58 trucks were able to enter Gaza on Saturday. Israel says it has pledged to allow humanitarian aid to enter Gaza. However, it has also urged civilians to evacuate to safe areas as it will continue hitting targets.
And so as soon as the fighting wraps up in northern Gaza, we will continue to destroy all of Hamas's terror infrastructure in Gaza so they can never again hurt our people. We've published an evacuation map, evacuation routes towards safe areas, and we're urging civilians to continue going to these areas, and we're committed to continuing to work with international agencies to ensure the continuation of humanitarian aid, of food, of water, of medicine and shelter to the people of the Gaza Strip.
While the attacks continue, Israel has started mulling post-war arrangements. Well, a senior advisor has told Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that the country will seek a security envelope with special zones that will prevent Hamas from being positioned on its border after the war in Gaza is over.
So we have spoken that in the framework of the post-conflict relationships, Israel will have to have a security envelope. We can never again allow terrorists to cross the border and butcher our people the way they did on October 7th. And we can't take our eye off the ball. And so in a post-conflict reality, a post-Hamas reality, Israel will maintain for the foreseeable future overall security control.
And for more on this, we're now being joined by Ron Alado, who is a former U.S. military officer and former intelligence and operations officer. He's joining us live from Florida. Thanks very much for joining us on WION, Mr. Alado.
Thank you. Very glad to be here tonight.
Right, Mr. Allen. Now, with the renewed fighting stretching into a third day, there is a growing threat of Israeli ground operation in the southern strip. My question to you is that, is it possible to fight a war there and still protect the civilians?
It's very, very difficult. It's extremely difficult. We need to understand that Gaza in general has about 9,000 people per square kilometer. 9,000 people per square kilometer is a very high density of population. Plus the Hamas militants that are about 19,000 in the military wing of Hamas, they are surrounded by almost 2 million people. So you have 19,000 people, the Hamas militants mix it up with 2 million people in a high density area. So very, very unlikely that Israel will be able to minimize civilian casualties. And that is the main concern of the international community, of the European Union, of many, many countries around the world, of the Vatican, that the war against Hamas is creating a very high number, sad number of civilian casualties right now.
Yes, Mr. Alado, since the last 2 days, at least 240 Gazans have already lost their lives, and there is a growing pressure from Washington for Israel to use more caution as it shifts the focus towards southern strip that we were talking about here. But the bigger picture here, when the war started, was for the hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have fled to southern Gaza, which is where the fighting is now focused. The question being that, where do Gazans go now? Is there any place that is safe for them at the moment?
In Gaza, no place in Gaza. Gaza is a small place. The whole territory of Gaza is very small. They have no electricity. They have no gas. They have no infrastructure. They are very, very little food, very little drinkable water. They have no medicines. They have nothing, and they are under constant attack by the Air Force of Israel. So there is no place to go. Some wounded people, a very little number of people is being allowed into Egypt. But Egypt don't have the infrastructure nor the resources to receive large quantity of people from Gaza. Egypt is not an option, only for a few hundred of the most critically injured people, etc., but not for the 2 million people that live in Gaza. They are trapped. They have nowhere to go. They have nothing right now. They are suffering a very big, harsh conditions without food, electricity, without medicine, without care,
Yes.
without infrastructure, and they are on danger right now.
Yes, Mr. Alado. Now, the IDF in the latest has released a video just a few hours back. It shows a tunnel shaft near a school in northern Gaza. You are a former military officer as well, and we have spoken about the tunnel system. How difficult is it at the moment for the Israeli military to fight there?
Well, Israelis have overwhelming superior firepower. That Israeli is one of the most powerful and technological advanced militaries in the area and in the whole world, honestly. Small, but very, very capable. And they have the capability of cutting Gaza by a land corridor, and they have the capability of using satellites and using what we call ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance to follow all the movement of the Hamas fighters. They have signal intelligence capabilities to track all the emails or all text messages, all phone calls, or radio calls, etc. So they are extremely capable to to destroy Hamas with overwhelming power. The problem again is that those 19,000 Gazan people from Hamas are surrounded by 2 million unarmed civilians, and those are the ones in danger. And Israel, honestly, the military, many military experts around the world are saying that Israel, despite of what they say, they are not really putting a lot of care on a lot of precautions in minimizing civilian casualties. That's the sad reality.
Right, Mr. Aldo, now there's also growing call on Israel to precisely define their goal from France to the United States of America, especially with the civilian casualties mounting. Can Israel actually precisely target its areas in southern Gaza while also reducing the civilian casualties at the moment?
Well, that is the key question. What are Netanyahu's, the Likud party, real intentions? What is the real objective? That is the big question that really nobody else knows but himself. But Netanyahu knows what his objectives are. The public objective that he's telling the press, that he's telling the media, is that he wants, obviously, revenge for the terrorist attacks, and he wants to destroy Hamas. That is the public objective. But people who knows the Likud party and people who knows the ultra-Orthodox religious parties that are part of Netanyahu's coalition, that we know that the real objective is not, or perhaps might not be that. The real objective perhaps will be to take control, permanent control of the whole Gaza area and destroy the peace process that the Labour Party did back in 2007 when they left the occupation of Gaza, and they destroy and they unoccupied the settlements, the Jewish settlements in Gaza. So perhaps what the Likud wants and the ultra-Orthodox parties want, that they are hardliners, is to use this as an excuse to have the final goal of taking full control, full occupation, permanent occupation of Gaza, just like it was before 2007.
Right, Mr. Alam, last question to you. With the for the families of the remaining hostages and the besieged Gazans, the fact that the truce has ended must have been a blow. What hope of any possible ceasefire? Because in the latest, Israel has recalled its negotiation team from Qatar.
Well, it's possible that there are more ceasefires in the future, but everything depends in what the United States of America, what Biden and the Biden administration tells Netanyahu to do. Netanyahu have very little. He cares very little about what the European Union said, what Spain said, or France says, or what Germany says, etc. He don't really care about the European Union at all. He only cares about what the Biden administration, what the United States of America tell him to do. So if the pressure, the international pressure mounts in the United States, mounts the internal, the left-wing party, the left-wing section of the Democratic Party, make a lot of pressure on Biden to stop the war for a few more days or for a few more weeks and make a ceasefire, then Biden is going to put Netanyahu on pressure. Biden is the only person in the whole world right now that can have or might have some kind of influence in what decisions Netanyahu does. Again, Netanyahu cares very little about what India says and very little about what the European Union says. He only cares about what Biden, about what the United States of America says right now.
Right, Mr. Aldo, but why is that?
Because the United States is the very big protector, the very big mentor, the very big defender of Israel. They give Israel billions of dollars every year in military aid. They give him political support. They give him military support. They give him protection in the United Nations. The permanent seat of the United States in the Security Council protects Israel. So Israel depends always, for the last 40 years, have been completely dependent, or for the 50 years, on the United States of America.
Right, Mr. Aldo. Thanks very much for joining us here on WION and sharing your insights with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.